In 1983, Toyco, a toy company in Japan, designed Astro Magnum, a futuristic transforming laser gun with 4 modes. Because of the interchangeable toy craze in Japan, many Japanese toy companies were licensing out their designs to the international market. For example, in 1983, Tonka's GoBots were based on Machine Robo, a toy line that started in 1982 by the Japanese company Popey, and these were distributed to the American market. Around this time, Toyco sold the license of the Astro Magnum design to Radio Shack and Hasbro, and probably many others. Radio Shack's version here, Galactic Man, better known by collectors as Shackwave, not that shack, this shack, was pretty much the same toy and was manufactured in Korea. Meanwhile, Hasbro renamed the design Shockwave, which was also made in Korea, also developing their own interchangeable robots called Transformers. These toys were based on Takara's Diaclone and Microman's Microchange, which were released as early as 1980. Were they the first ones to develop these interchangeable transforming toys? Now, Hasbro did change a few things. They changed the color to purple instead of this gunmetal metallic gray color, and for obvious reasons, changed the trigger design. Now that we know where this toy comes from and where Shockwave comes from and their history a little bit, let's get into this toy. Now, this is one that I've had on my shelf for about 7 or 8 years. I bought it in a toy lot of Transformers. I never really thought much of it. He looked familiar. I was pretty sure it was Shockwave, but I never owned Shockwave as a kid, so I just put it on my shelf and thought it was cool. But now that I have a little bit more experience fixing toys, I thought this would be a good candidate for that. So here we can see that there's a piece here that has broken off. And that's usually caused because when kids were transforming this toy, they didn't get it all the way over to the left or right and tried to articulate the leg. It would break those pieces off. So we're going to fix that and try to find a way to use some styrene and repair that and repaint it. The other issue that these toys faced back in the day was if they had wires, the insulation usually broke down and it turns out like this. And this one is no exception. It is in bad shape. I'm going to have to take this apart and unsolder these wires and then take this old insulation off and find something to replace it with. So we're going to do that. We also have the battery cover here is missing, so I need to build or make a new battery cover for the back. So we'll do that. Shouldn't be too hard to do. Probably use styrene for this too. Also, I haven't even put batteries in this yet, so I'm going to put batteries in this and we're going to test out the Thorpe and the Magnoid sounds. Not really sure what they sound like. I've never really tested this. If it doesn't work, well, we're taking it apart anyway, so we should be able to get in there and figure out what's wrong with it. Usually it's a wire that's bad, or sometimes these can get broken, but this one looks like it's in pretty good shape, so that looks pretty good. The nice thing about this toy is, even though we have these few things we have to fix, it still has the plastic sight, which I think is probably pretty brittle. I think that all of this plastic is pretty brittle. And so we have the sight, which is nice. He's got his clear fist here and his laser gun. And I also have the piece that you put on the front when it's in gun mode. Let's get into this toy and let's start fixing it. First of all, let's get some batteries and see if the electronics work. Alright, let's see if this guy works. You can push on his switch there. He's got a sound. I don't know, is there a light in there? Looks like, I don't think there's a light in his in his hand. Ooh, okay, that's a different sound. So that is the Magnoid sound. Let's see what Thorpe sounds like. That's the Thorpe sound. That's awesome. That's one thing I don't have to deal with. And another thing is, I noticed as I was playing with this, is that this does not stay up. We might have to deal with that. I'm not sure if this pushes in there and holds it in, or maybe there's some screws in here. Maybe I can tighten those screws and make it so that it stays up like that. And he does need a cleaning, so I'm going to get a damp rag and go around him and give him a dusting. So let's get the electronics out first and we'll fix this issue. I think most of the electronics are in here. I'm going to take out these screws here and see if we can pull the back off. Okay, so we can see here how the ratcheting system works. We've got your little ratchet piece here that goes in here, and then you have the spring there for the arms. So we're going to put that aside like that. Put the arms aside. We have the leg assembly here. The legs are die cast, and so is this big, huge metal pin. And those all kind of get connected by that pin along with the trigger. So let's keep that all together. That's what slides back and forth when you're transforming it. So keep that all together. The trigger looks like it's in good shape. There's nothing broken on it. So we can set that aside. You can see in here we've got the springs for the legs. So set that aside. You can see the arm assembly. This has no electronics in it, so we know, I thought maybe there might have been a light in there, but there isn't. So this is the issue we have here, is I've got to unsolder these wires to put the new insulation in. Probably would have been easier if I took, now that I look at it again, if I should have taken this arm apart, but it might have been harder to get into. Yeah, I should have taken this arm apart and then took the insulation out that way, because in here I wasn't sure how this worked out, but as I was taking it apart, this just slipped out like that. So I could have probably desoldered it from the arm and didn't have to take it all apart. But that's okay, because now we get to look inside and see how it works. We've got some wires here that goes into this part here, which has the switch on it, and it also has the speaker in here. And so that's where those wires go into this little pivot point. So this is kind of loose. I'm going to tighten these screws and see if I can get this. I'm not going to tighten it a lot. I don't want to break this plastic. So I'm just going to give it a little, like, and see if that makes that a little bit better. Yeah, that seems a lot tighter. And once this is fixed here too, that'll be out of the way. And then this should close and stay closed. Perfect. Okay, so that seems to fix that issue. I think this is for the switch. This is what causes the connection for the switch. All the wires come up in here. This is all the switching and the speaker, electronics for the sounds, and then we've got the wires to the LED in here. So these yellow wires are soldered in this board right here, and I think that board would be annoying to try to take apart. Let me see if I can get that off. It seems like it just, this is mushroomed, so I would have to break that mushroom to get that apart. So I don't know. Maybe I can't get to it. There's the wires right there. There's one there, and there's a yellow one right here. I think I'm going to leave that together, and I'm going to take this apart and we'll desolder it in here. So let's do that. Now these screws are much different. They're black, but they're short. So the short ones go in the arms. And there seems to be two for the forearm here. And I think there's one in the clear plastic laser. Yeah, that's the same. So open that up. Again, we have the same kind of ratcheting system here with a spring. So set that aside. I don't know if this is going to work either because those wires have some kind of enamel coating on them that I'm not going to be able to desolder. I do have red enamel paint, so that's okay. We'll do that. We'll repaint that red. This screw is a silver instead of a black. And this is fused together. So they really didn't want you to fix this electronics. I don't want to break that. Now it's stuck in there. Here we go. That is sketchy. This right here is glued in there, so that's going to be a chore trying to get that back in there. So we have our light with some enamel here. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut it right here because this, you won't be able to see that. I'm going to cut it right here. We're going to take this insulation off, and then I'll solder it back on, and then I'll put some heat shrink here after I solder it back together. So I'm going to take a marker. I'm going to mark the wires. Alright, so I'm going to take a black marker. This will tell me which wire goes with which. And I'll cut that off right in the middle of that mark. That way I solder the right wires together. Here we go. We're going to cut those off. And now we can remove this. Now, the thing with this is that this fits in here and holds that wire in there. And I'm going to have to make something that will fit in there and make it look good. Alright, so I'm going to go and see if I can find some insulation that's going to work for this. I might be a few days ordering it or looking for it somewhere. I might have some stuff in my shop. I'll look around, and when I come back I'll show you how we're going to fix this. Alright, I'm in the shop and I found an old guitar cable here, and I think it's going to work perfect. I've cut it to size. It's 6 millimeters in total diameter. The walls are 2 millimeters, and the inside hole is 2 millimeters, so I shouldn't have any problem getting these wires through. Here's the wire that I took out of it. Took a little effort with some pliers, but I pulled the 2 wires that was in it. Now, it's important to me to try to keep most of this as original as possible, so I'm going to keep the yellow wires that it came with. I'm not going to try to replace them because they work just fine. So I think it's going to work good. I've cut it to size now, and it's going to fit right into this little slot. Just perfect. It's a little larger in diameter than the openings. I think the openings are around 5 millimeters, but that's good because I want those tight so they act as a strain relief to hold the wire in place once it's surrounded by this insulation. You can see now that the forearm is assembled, the hole is a little bit smaller, but like I said, it will act as a strain relief and hold that wire in. Hopefully I'll be able to play with it and transform it, and it will be solid enough that it'll allow me to do that. So the next thing I have to do is I have to strip the yellow wires. These strippers here, the smallest hole is too large in diameter, so I've got these adjustable ones where I can adjust the thickness of the strip, and it should work for these wires. Here we go. Yeah. A couple pieces of heat shrink. ratchet goes in here like that. And then we have the spring goes on top like that. There's the arm we want right there. So is that the way we want it? Yeah. There's your ratcheting system there. Good. Get this in here like that. There we go. Here we go. Now, we have a ratcheting system for the arms here. We put that in. Same as the forearms. These are more for the shoulder part of the arm. This is where the arms attach onto the body. Now, this is going to be tricky because I've got to hold everything together and put the arm in and the legs in. And try to hold it all in place. Also, when you put the legs in, the switch, there's a little, couple little tabs there. They got to go up over that part there so it stops it in place. The trickiest part of this is trying to get the other arm in while it's connected to the rest of the body. And when you put the electronics in, these arms can't be stuck on those pins. You have to move them out of the way at the same time and hope for the best. So let's see if we can get this in here. Just going to move those arms out of the way a bit. That way the electronic slides into the chest. Now this is the second time doing this, and every time I do it, the ratchets come out of alignment with the arms. So what you have to do is, once everything is together, this ratchet wants to move. This is very difficult to put together yourself. I would advise, if you have somebody to help you, to get somebody to help. But this ratchet needs to, there's a little tab there, it needs to tab in to that piece. If it's not in there right, then it won't close. So there's that side. Now the next thing is to try to get the other side in. I think that's in. So can I get this closed? That seems to be closed there. So I guess it's all in there. I just gotta screw it in, and it should tighten everything together. I guess it's just the springs holding it open now, so these screws should push everything together. Put a battery in it and see if it at least works. That sits up there tight. So thanks for watching part 1 of this Galactic Man restoration and a little bit of the history there at the beginning. Please like and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification down below so you can see future episodes, especially the second episode, because part 2 will be coming up on Tuesday, and we'll be fixing the part on the leg and making a battery cover for this. So stick around and hopefully you'll see part 2. Thanks for watching, and see you later.